The Manzini Magistrate's Court will today hand down its ruling on the extradition of the Ndimande brothers. The two are in custody in Eswatini for their alleged involvement in the murder of rapper Kiernan AKA Forbes and celebrity chef Tebello Tibz Motsoane. The state has filed an extradition application for the pair to be returned to South Africa. Malusi and Siyabonga Ndimande's lawyers have opposed the extradition bid, citing that the brothers' lives would be in danger if they moved to South Africa. Let's get some insight on this with criminal law expert Ian Allis. Ian, thank you so much for joining us this morning. As we've heard before from the Ndimande brothers, they cannot return to South Africa, citing that they will not be safe because of taxi wars and have also lost loved ones. Is this a valid, justified reason, according to the courts, to not extradite people who have been accused in a murder, two murders, in fact?
Absolutely not. That's defense that they're utilizing is simply a stalling defense to try and avoid the extradition. The fact remains is that for a crime as serious as murder, there's got to show an there's got to be extreme reasons why they would not why extradition would not be safe and why they would be in such danger. To go ahead and simply say that this is the reason because of potential taxi wars, or as being used beforehand, that the jails are not welcoming and that there's poor facilities and poor infrastructure and resources, that's not a basis to avoid extradition. If perhaps they could show that there had been threats on their lives, or alternatively that there is some form of actual real threat, perhaps there might be a basis to oppose, but still they can be placed into a protective custody within the jail. So that's not going to hold up too well, especially not on a murder and a high-profile murder case of this nature.
Yeah, because, Ian, if that's the case, anybody could then come into South Africa, commit crimes as heinous as murder, and then just escape to neighboring countries or any other country, knowing that they can say that, look, my life won't be, my life will be in danger, so therefore I cannot come to face the music.
Exactly. It's a nonsense type of proposition to actually make to the court. There's no way from an aspect of a murder, if there was like an extradition, if one could say over a default maintenance payment, maybe, but not with murder, not with a higher schedule offence, and that they could potentially be looking at life imprisonment.
Yeah, and there's two families who deserve justice in this case right now. The prosecutor in this case, Macebo Nxumalo, also said that the brothers should be extradited because this case is not even politically related, but further added to say that they are in the country illegally because they haven't sought asylum yet. But
in reality, that just goes ahead and actually exacerbates the problem. Here you've got guys who are potentially illegal. Now they're going ahead and saying, now we must get the benefit of being illegal and being deported. Not in a circumstance like this. Otherwise, this is just going to be for every single organized crime individual, a defense to say, well, I shouldn't be extradited and you can go and sit and stay in the Caribbean. Is where there's no treaties. So realistically, to come with this proposition on all these grounds is unbelievable, and especially there is no political motivation from what it's seeming, and there's no political agendas. It's the fact is that these were two very high-profile victims that were murdered, and that is where the emotions are running highest. Within the communities, within the families, and these guys must bear the responsibility for what they in actual fact being charged with. If they believe they're innocent, then they must plead not guilty and let the courts do their work.
Ian, you know, this week, extradition again brought into the spotlight. We saw the former PA to Ace Magashule Moradi Cholota being extradited from the US to South Africa. There was a heavy police presence, also invites to the media to capture this as well. She was shackled. She was put in handcuffs as well. And of course, the bail application also being quite heavy on her and talking about the extradition. When it comes to the law, when we're talking extraditions, are there different cases for different people? Of course, there are different cases. Here, one has got to do with fraud and corruption, and the other has to do with murder. One would expect that there would also be a heavier focus on this, where two people have been murdered, to make sure that these two also are extradited. And can we expect that kind of fanfare that we saw around Ms. Moradi Cholota?
The problem is with saying like that, perception is everything. And I think that is basically playing it up more because of the whole political agenda more than what it is. Remember, when they are actually chained and shackled, it also comes down to the aspect of the danger in which that person can likely pose. For one thing, I would have gone ahead and seen these two in the murder be shackled and restrained more severely than a person who's coming in facing money laundering and corruption charges. I don't believe that she's as much of a physical danger and harm to society as they could in actual fact be, or anybody surrounding them. The only way that maybe they could justify the excessive if one could say, detention and steps for chains and shackles, maybe from the aspect of somebody trying to help her escape because of the whole political affiliation. But that would be the only reason. There shouldn't be all people should be treated equally with regards to the processes surrounding their arrest, and it shouldn't serve as, if one could say, an entertainment factor, even irrespective of the nature of the crime.
And before I let you go, Ian, when we're looking at what is going to go on today, would you be at all surprised if the court does accept these justifications and these excuses for why they should not be extradited?
If the court does, I'd be highly surprised, because there's no merit in that fact, and there's no factors that actually set out why this should in actual fact take place and why they should be accepted. The problem is that when you've had your speaker as well talk about the conditions in respect of her bail when she was arrested, and saying why it shouldn't be, why the South African jails are so disastrous, if one could say, in order to assist with their bail application, that says a lot, and that's where a lot of these people are joining on the bandwagon.
I said before I let you go, but on that point too, do you find that that's becoming an increasing argument that people who are in the defense are putting to the court, and is the court allowing this more and more?
Oh, absolutely. It's a newfound. It is on the rise with people utilizing that as a defense. But you know what? It is circumstance. It is the circumstance that there needs to be other factors that need to be taken into account, and that goes to the whole aspect of bail being granted in the first place, and whether the offence does permit bail. What people don't understand is that bail is a privilege and not a direct right. So when one is arrested, the fact that you're given bail is actually a privilege. So it's not an automatic right that every person arrested, but it's generally looked at from the degree of the crime and what the potential risk is of the person escaping. So one thing one can see, if you're already having to extradite a person, there's no way that they do not qualify as a flight risk.
Bail is a privilege, not a direct right. Thank you so much for that quote and for your insights this morning. That is a criminal law expert, Ian Allis, just talking to us again about that extradition case that's taking place in Eswatini now.